Welcome back, guys, to another review show with Monday Night Raw, January 30th, 2012, from Kansas City, Missouri. This was a really good Raw show. I really liked this show. A lot of good matches on here. It was really good. I can't think of, much to complain about, really. Great wrestling. Taker came back. It was just an amazing Raw. Much better than last week's. And much better than the ones they've had for a while now, actually. I really like this Raw. Um, it starts off with John Laurinaitis coming out. This is the week he's supposed to get reviewed by Triple H, yet he comes out looking really happy. He's excited. He's, shaking hands with the fans. And he says, I'm not worried. I think that when Triple H comes out here, he's going to tell me that I am the permanent general manager of Raw. He goes on to tell everyone that he put together an amazing Raw for everybody tonight. And he's going to tell everyone the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship, which is basically CM Punk, Dolph Ziggler, R-Truth, Kofi Kingston, The Miz, and Chris Jericho. So there's your Elimination Chamber match. And he also books for tonight's Raw Kofi versus Miz, Beth Phoenix and Eve in a Divas Championship match, Randy Orton versus Dolph Ziggler, and a first time ever match of Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk. And it's going to be champion versus champion. So everybody's going crazy, and it's a great Raw lineup. Then all of a sudden, CM Punk's music hits. He basically comes out and starts poking fun at John Laurinaitis as usual. He comes out, he's singing the na 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 song, and it's the song they sing when they do a lot of loser leaves town matches. But Punk comes out, he's singing that. He starts to make fun of John Laurinaitis. He tells him he doesn't know how he figured out how to suck and blow at the same time, which wasn't very PG, but John Laurinaitis says, I've taken Raw to new heights, and he extends a hand to CM Punk, who promptly says, I wouldn't stick that out unless you're sleepy and want to go to sleep. All of a sudden, Daniel Bryan's music hits. He comes out and says, nobody cares about your guys' little personal vendetta you have going on here. And Daniel Bryan was great here. He says, no one cares about my accomplishments, and John Laurinaitis says, I care, I appreciate them, and that was pretty funny. But Daniel Bryan says, last night I beat the world's strongest man, and I beat the world's largest athlete in a title match, and after that, CM Punk, you're just not much of a challenge. CM Punk looks at the ground and he says, I'm just the best wrestler in the world. And Daniel Bryan says, well, I'm much more than that. I'm a role model, and I'm a vegan. I don't eat meat. Then Punk kind of makes a joke about him being a vegan, and Daniel Bryan gets up at his face, and he gets all angry about it. And Punk says, look, I've known you for a decade. We're friends. John Laurinaitis is just trying to stir trouble up between us. And all of a sudden, Sheamus's music hits. So Sheamus gets a pretty good pop here. He comes out and says, I just want to remind everybody I won the Royal Rumble. And I also want to remind everyone that John Laurinaitis could be fired tonight. He says, now that I've won the Rumble, I can challenge either one of you guys. I can become the WWE Champion or the World Heavyweight Champion. I'm going to go ahead and say he's going to go for the World Heavyweight Championship, since him and Daniel Bryan are both on SmackDown. And Punk's pretty much going to be wrestling Jericho at Mania, so that one's not too hard to figure out unless something changes. But then he tells John Laurinaitis an Irish joke about something, his lace-covered undies. It was alright. That ends that segment. So the next thing that happens is Josh Matthews is up in the skybox watching the next match, which is Randy Orton versus Dolph Ziggler. And he's up there in the skybox with Wade Barrett, who every once in a while they cut to and he gives his thoughts. This was really weird. I don't know why they did this, but why was he in the skybox? I don't know. But, at first I didn't think this was going to be a good match. I thought it was going to be typical Orton. I thought it was going to, the drop down DDT and the power slam, which he did all those things. But man, I don't know if it was Dolph Ziggler or what, but this was a great match. It really got better as it went on. Randy Orton did win with an RKO. He beat Dolph Ziggler clean, but it was such a great match. It's really hard to complain about it. I don't really think it hurt Dolph Ziggler that much to lose clean to Randy Orton. It was in Missouri, Orton's, home state. So, I mean, of course he's going to go over here with the fans anyway, but Dolph Ziggler still put up a great fight. It was a good back and forth match. I really liked this one. Next, they show some pictures from the Royal Rumble with Kane versus Cena. Just some quick pictures of him and what happened with Zack Ryder. Backstage is John Laurinaitis. He's shaking hands with employees. He comes up to William Regal and he says, "How's the sons?" And Regal says, "I have daughters, actually. They're conjoined." And he says, "Yeah, 5th grade. That's tough." And Regal says, "Well, I keep them locked in the attic most of the time, actually." And then Laurinaitis walks off and says hey to Kurt Hawkins and leaves. Really weird. Some strange comedy. I don't get it, but it was bizarre. I like William Regal, though, so I kind of popped for that. Next match is Brodus Clay versus Tyler Rex. Not much to say here. Brodus Clay comes out. He squashes another jobber. There was a little bit of momentum for Tyler Rex early on. He was kind of beating down Brodus, but Brodus Clay started hawking up like he's Hogan, and then he hit his 3 moves. Tyler Rex is gone. Or not gone, but Tyler Rex is beaten, and that's it. Another Brodus Clay squash match. I guess this is the 8th one now. Probably going to be another one on SmackDown. I really thought tonight he'd wrestle a real guy, but they're still doing the job squad thing for him, so. Punk and Daniel Bryan are backstage. Punk says, we've been friends, but you're not a role model. And not many people know what a vegan is. So Daniel Bryan kind of goes off telling people what a vegan is and how he doesn't eat meat and all this crazy stuff. And then he says, not many people know what straight edge is either. So Punk says, well, I don't drink, smoke, or do drugs, but I also don't claim to be a role model like you. I'm just the best wrestler in the world. And that's it. That ends the little backstage segment between those two. Then they go to the champion versus champion match of CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan. This match was awesome. For a TV show, a Raw show, they could do an incredible angle with these two guys, but instead they just did a regular Raw show. It had one commercial break, but it was still a really good show. This was like a pay-per-view level match. Both guys looked great here. I knew that there would be kind of a run-in finish, like somebody would have to run down and screw up the match, because you can't really have one guy beat the other, or else the other champion looks weak. So I knew they couldn't just end it like that. So I kind of expected the run-in finish, and honestly, when the run-in happened, which was Chris Jericho, both guys, neither one of them was about to beat the other. They were both laid out from the hard-fought match. Nobody had one up on the other guy. So it looked perfect. Both guys looked great. The match went a really long time before Jericho came out. Chris Jericho runs down to the ring. He grabs Daniel Bryan and throws him into the guardrail, disqualifying CM Punk. So Punk loses the match because he put his hands on Bryan first. Then Jericho gets in the ring, hits the codebreaker to the face on CM Punk, and then he just walks off. So the angle with Jericho versus Punk has officially started. Jericho just walks away and stares at him from the entrance ramp. Punk is holding his jaw, and he just looks really surprised. I don't think this could have gone better. This was great. And like I said, another great match. The next match is Kofi Kingston versus The Miz with R-Truth on commentary. This was another really good match. The Miz and Kofi, they had a good amount of time. They got a lot of cool spots in. I can't complain about this. This was a good match. Kofi Kingston beats The Miz clean in the ring after a Trouble in Paradise. I mean, Miz, for the past 2 years, has very few matches he has won clean. He beat a lot of guys when he had Alex Riley, who used the briefcase to knock them out. Miz cheated to win every match. Very, very few matches has The Miz actually won on his own, and I was not surprised that Kofi beat him here. I mean, there was a little bit of surprise, but I guess Kofi Kingston is getting a push now. Evan Bourne still has like 7 weeks left on his suspension, so I'm guessing Air Boom is no more. And they're going to give Kofi a singles push. He's in Elimination Chamber. He did the great handstand at the Royal Rumble, and he just looked pretty awesome. So I get it. He's also wearing these weird question marks on green tights for some reason, like he's the Riddler. I don't understand that, but... So, backstage we have John Laurinaitis and Otunga. Otunga comes up and he says, I was talking with the board of directors, I put in a good word. John Laurinaitis starts to get afraid that maybe Otunga's after his job, and he says, you're not after my job, are you? And Otunga says, no, I'm happy where I'm at, and I'm sure everything's going to be fine. So then they show the really long Rock promo they showed at WrestleMania. Thank God they didn't show the Cena one, because each one of these things is like over 5 minutes long. But they did show the Rock one again. Probably do the Cena one next week. The next match is Eve Torres versus Beth Phoenix for the Divas title. Basically, Eve attacks Beth. Beth turns her around, picks her up, hits her with the Glam Slam, beats her. Squash match, done with it. But I was looking at the clock and I said, they don't have time for another match. This is the main event here. The last thing they can pull off is John Laurinaitis and the Triple H angle. So they don't have time for anything else. So either Kane's going to come out or Karma's going to come out. Well, Kane's music hits and he cuts a promo on Eve saying, you know, John Cena thinks he's just going to go straight to WrestleMania and face The Rock, but he hasn't embraced the hate yet, so he can't beat The Rock if he can't even beat me. And he's not done with me yet. And he says he's going to use Eve to help Cena embrace the hate. So he appears, the lights come on, he's behind Eve. John Cena runs out, makes the save, and he just proceeds to destroy Kane. He beats him all over the place. He throws him into the steps. He picks up the stairs and slams him into Kane repeatedly. He grabs a microphone and says, let's get a party up in here. Which I don't know why he said that when he was so angry, but he did. God, I don't like Cena at all. He cleans off the table. He picks Kane up for the attitude adjustment. Kane gets away and runs off into the backstage, like through the crowd. And Cena's just staring at him, and he's all angry. The only reason I can think they did this was Kane, you know, even though they were both counted out at the Royal Rumble, Kane still destroyed Zack Ryder and chokeslammed Cena and beat him with chairs and made him, you know, made it look like Kane destroyed everyone. So WWE, they have to protect John Cena by having him get revenge on Kane immediately after the Royal Rumble. It's ridiculous. They don't need to protect John Cena. Nothing can stop John Cena. I mean, he doesn't really need to win every single match. It's ridiculous. But they keep doing it. They don't do it with Randy Orton anymore. I mean, he lost to Mark Henry twice on pay-per-view. I don't see why they have to keep doing it with Cena when he's the one getting booed. But anyways, the Laurinaitis angle starts, and this is the last thing that happens. He comes out, and he says, you know, all employees have to give themselves an assessment rating. We have to give ourselves a ranking between 0 and 5, with 5 being the best. And since I've been on Raw, the ratings are up, and everything is better. So I gave myself, you know, a 5 in communication, a 5 in team leading, and he basically gave himself a 5 in everything. And all of a sudden, Triple H's music hits. He comes out and he says, you know, you backstabbed me to get this position as general manager. I thought you might actually be good at it, but you were worse than anyone else, and you got personally involved. Vince got personally involved and was fired. I got personally involved and was fired, and now you've done it. Uh, John says, I was trying to make Raw better. Triple H says you only did get involved because you wanted to become a star. You used your power as general manager to make yourself a star, which you never did in the ring. John says, I'll do anything to keep my job. So Triple H says, apologize to all the people here. And Laurinaitis does. He apologized to everyone in the building, and they all boo him like crazy, obviously, as you can expect. Then Triple H kind of gets quiet and he says, there is something my father-in-law did. And he basically makes John Laurinaitis think that he's got to join the Kiss My Ass Club. He puts on chapstick. He gets down on his knees. Triple H is bending over. But before it happens, he kind of says, you're a sick freak, and I wouldn't let you touch me anywhere with those lips. And tells him to get away from him. And then he says, it warms my heart to tell you that I wish you well in all. And then the Undertaker's gong hits. So what I got from this was basically he didn't have time to say in all your future endeavors. So technically John Laurinaitis is not fired. In reality, he could have gone backstage after the Taker segment and said, hey John, by the way, you're still fired. But I guess if it doesn't happen on TV, it doesn't count. So technically, I'm going to say John Laurinaitis is still employed as the Raw general manager. Which is great, because if Triple H was on there every week, it would just become so boring. But Laurinaitis is a great heel, he's funny, and I think the general manager should be a heel to book those matches. But anyways, Undertaker comes out, and I'm pretty sure he's wearing a wig, because I saw a picture on the internet of the Undertaker from, I believe, last summer, and he's wearing a scuba diving outfit, and his head is completely bald. He shaved his head. And his hair definitely did look like a wig here tonight, so I don't know what they're going to do with this. I guess he could just take it off and shock everyone and do the tongue and the eyes roll back, and he'll actually probably look like a bigger monster with no hair doing that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure this was a wig. But anyways, he comes out, and he steps in the ring with Triple H, he stares at the WrestleMania sign, he does the thumb across the throat. Triple H just looks at him, pats him on the back, and walks off. So Taker watches him leave, and then Taker stares back up at the WrestleMania sign, and then Triple H is walking up the ramp. He pauses for a second, but he doesn't look back, and then he keeps walking. So they still have about 2 months to build WrestleMania. And I assume for the next few weeks, Taker trying to convince Triple H to wrestle him one more time at WrestleMania is going to be their build. Kind of what Shawn Michaels did for The Undertaker when he wanted another match. So I assume that's what's going to happen. Probably have Shawn Michaels as special guest referee, maybe. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing this again. I know a lot of people say they don't want to see it again, but I'm okay with it. We'll have to see how they build it up. But yeah, Taker returning tonight was huge. I did not expect it. It was great. So I have to say, this was one of the better Raws I've seen in a really long time. I really like this show. Great wrestling. If you can and have not seen Raw and you're just listening to this review, go find that CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan match, because it's great. And that's it. So please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, leave some comments. I will respond to every comment. I like talking about wrestling, and I can talk about it all day. So if anybody wants to talk about it in the comments or ask any questions, that would be awesome. And I hope you guys will be back here for my Thursday TNA Impact review. Thank you for listening. Bye.